When I asked my family to help with medical bills, they used my story to fund my sister's cosmetic surgery and flew to Cabo. Until a stranger who saw the GoFundMe reached out and blew the whole sick scam wide open, I was hooked up to 2 IV lines in a dim room at St. Joseph's in Phoenix, staring at a blinking monitor that kept warning the nurses I was crashing again. My chest hurt every time I breathed. I hadn't eaten in almost a full day because I was too nauseous to keep anything down. I remember thinking, if I close my eyes right now, I might not wake up. The doctor had just told me my insurance wasn't active. Apparently, it had been canceled months earlier, and the hospital was trying to figure out if they could keep me admitted without dumping the entire bill on me. I was confused, panicked, and honestly a little delirious. I kept insisting there had to be a mistake. My dad handled all the insurance stuff. He'd always said I was too scattered to handle anything important. When the nurse stepped out, I grabbed my phone with shaking hands to text my family group chat, begging them to call me. Nobody answered. 30 minutes passed, then an hour. The only notification I got was a spam email and a random Venmo request. So I opened Facebook, hoping to see if they'd posted something about what was going on. That's when I saw it. A relative had shared a GoFundMe my family created that morning. But it wasn't for me. The title hit me like someone pressing their thumb deep into a bruise. Help our beautiful daughter finally feel confident, emergency cosmetic surgery fund. My sister, Madison, smiling in perfect lighting, posing like she was auditioning for a reality show. The goal was $42,000. They had written this whole heartfelt paragraph about how she'd suffered in silence for years with insecurity, and how she deserved the chance to step into her full beauty. And there, at the bottom, was a comment from my father. We chose to put our limited family resources here. Some things are just too expensive to save, but beauty lasts a lifetime. I reread that line until the words blurred. Some things are just too expensive to save. I realized then he meant me. As I scrolled, more comments from relatives piled up. She'll give us better photos during family trips. Finally doing something that benefits all of us. Proud of you, Maddie. My hands went cold. I searched the page for any sign that they knew I was in the hospital fighting for my life. Nothing. Instead, I found pictures they'd posted on Instagram stories that same afternoon. My parents and sister clinking margaritas at a resort in Cabo. My dad had written, "Family vacation before Maddie's big transformation." I was lying in a hospital bed hooked to monitors I couldn't afford, and they were drinking on a beach with money people thought was saving my life. My throat tightened so hard I thought I'd pass out. The nurse came back in right as the alarms went off again, and she asked if I had someone to come sit with me. I told her, no, not anymore. I think she thought I was being dramatic, but I meant it. I remember closing the GoFundMe tab and staring at the ceiling, fighting the panic crawling up my chest. If the hospital kicked me out, I didn't know where I'd go. I didn't know how much longer my body could keep running on fear and adrenaline. Then, about an hour later, my phone buzzed again. A message request from a name I didn't recognize. The first line read, "I think you need to know the truth about that GoFundMe." And then, "I can help you, but you have to answer me right now before things get worse." I stared at the screen, heart thudding, no idea who this stranger was or how they knew about me at all. Before everything went to hell, people always said my family looked close. We posted those fake matching Christmas pajamas photos, the birthday brunch pictures, the fake laughing in a circle shots. But the truth was, I was the extra. The background character, the other daughter. My sister Madison was the sun in our house. Everything revolved around her. She was the pretty one, the marketable one, as my dad liked to say when he pushed her toward pageants and brand collabs. My mom called her our family's future, and said it with this dreamy tone like Madison was going to save us all with her face alone. Me, I was the sensitive one, the one who got sick a lot, the one who had panic attacks in middle school, the one who didn't want to film TikTok dances to promote my parents' lifestyle brand. I got labeled difficult early on, and that never changed. The medical stuff didn't help. I'd been dealing with these unexplained fainting spells for about a year. It started with dizziness at work, then full collapses. I'd end up in urgent care, and the doctors would say something different each time. Dehydration, low blood sugar, stress, maybe anemia, maybe something neurological. They ran tests, but nothing stuck as a clear answer. But when the episodes got worse, passing out while driving, waking up on the kitchen floor, I told my parents I needed real medical help. A specialist. Something. That was 3 months before the hospital incident. My dad sighed and said, "Do you know how expensive neurology is? Your sister's been waiting for years to fix her nose. Pick your battles." I remember thinking he was joking. He wasn't. My mom said, "You don't look sick. You'll grow out of it. Stress can manifest physically." Madison just shrugged and said, "Not to be rude, but your timing sucks." They weren't subtle about it. Madison's cosmetic surgery was the priority. They kept telling me she couldn't lose her momentum, with her following growing and potential sponsorship deals. They talked about her nose like it was some kind of national crisis. Meanwhile, I was terrified of being alone in public because I kept hitting the ground without warning. So when my dad offered to handle my insurance for me, I agreed because I didn't have the energy to fight. I was working part-time at a bookstore in Tempe, barely covering rent with 2 roommates and trying to make sense of my body failing on me. I trusted him. Stupidly. Whenever I asked about appointments or coverage, he'd say, "I'm working on it. It's complicated. Stop rushing me." Then the week before I landed in the ER, I had a collapse so bad my roommate called 911. I woke up in the ambulance, confused and shaking. At the hospital, they ran tests that showed I had a severe electrolyte imbalance and signs of possible cardiac arrhythmia. They wanted to keep me for observation. That's when insurance problems appeared, and everything spiraled into panic and humiliation. I called my parents from the hospital bed, crying, and Madison answered with, I'm at a nail appointment. Can Dad call you later?" He didn't. They ghosted me for 4 days. At the time, I thought maybe they had some emergency, maybe something happened, maybe my dad was handling insurance behind the scenes. But the truth was much uglier, and I wouldn't understand it until that stranger messaged me. I just didn't know then that the person who reached out would blow open the whole truth, and that my family's betrayal went way deeper than picking my sister over me. It was never just about surgery. It was about something they'd been keeping from me for years. The message from the stranger kept flashing on my lock screen while alarms beeped around my bed. I was scared to open it, but I was more scared to stay in the dark, so I tapped it. The name was Emily R. I didn't recognize her profile picture. She looked maybe late 20s, dark hair, sharp eyes. The message was short but urgent. "Your family blocked me after I asked questions on the GoFundMe. I'm sorry, but I think something is very wrong. Can you talk right now?" I typed back. "I'm in the hospital. I don't know what's going on." She responded instantly. "I do. They've been lying about you. I tried to donate to help you, not your sister." My stomach dropped. I didn't tell anyone I needed donations. I never posted anything. I barely told my coworkers I was sick. I typed, "What do you mean help me?" She wrote back, "The GoFundMe used to be for you. I saw the original version before they changed everything. They deleted all the updates, but I screenshotted them." I could feel my pulse in my teeth. My chest tightened, alarms on my monitor flickering. A nurse walked in, glanced at the screen, frowned, and said I needed to stay calm. I nodded like I could control that. A screenshot appeared in my messages. The photo hit me first. It was me, in a hospital gown, unconscious, pale. My roommate must have taken the picture during the 911 incident. I never knew she'd sent it to my mom for updates. Under the photo, in bold, "Our daughter is gravely ill and needs immediate help. Please donate anything you can to save her life." They had used my collapse, my body, my fear, my face. Then Emily sent another screenshot. A deleted update. "Insurance issues are slowing down her treatment. We are devastated. Anything helps." The goal had originally been $20,000. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. Me, why would they switch it to my sister? Emily, money. They shut down the fundraiser as soon as it hit 27K. Then the page disappeared for a day and came back with a new title and new photos. They assumed no one would notice. My stomach twisted so hard I felt like I might throw up. While I was fighting to walk without fainting, they were cashing donations off my medical crisis and rebranding it into a cosmetic/vacation fund. Emily sent one more message. "There's something else. It's about your insurance. I don't want to send it unless you're sitting down." I looked around at the hospital room like the answer was hiding in the shadows. I typed back, "Just tell me." A pause. Then a paragraph that made my whole body go cold. "Your dad contacted the insurance company months ago and removed you from the policy. He claimed you had a full-time job with benefits and didn't need to be on theirs anymore. That's insurance fraud if he used your name. They told me all of this because I said I was your advocate." The room spun for a second, and I had to grip the rails of the bed just to stay upright. My own father cut me off insurance, lied to the company, just to free up money for cosmetic surgery and some beach vacation. Emily followed up. "They did it intentionally." I checked the dates. "Your coverage ended the same week they booked their Cabo trip." My throat tightened. It felt like drowning in air. Emily sent one last line. "If you want, I can help you expose them. But there's something you need to know first, something they've been keeping from you." Another secret. Another hit. I stared at those words, knowing whatever came next would change everything I thought I knew about my family. I told Emily to just say it, whatever it was. I didn't have anything left to cushion the blow. She hesitated for a long time, long enough that I thought maybe she'd changed her mind. Then my phone buzzed again. "Emily, I didn't want to be the one to tell you this, but your family didn't just remove you from their insurance. They signed someone else up using your information." I froze. For a second, I genuinely couldn't understand the sentence. I reread it over and over like the words would rearrange themselves into something that made sense. "Me, what do you mean someone else?" "Emily, I mean your sister. They used your SSN, your birth date, your medical history. They created an identity swap so she could get covered for the surgery she wanted." My entire body went cold. She kept going, each message hitting like a punch. "The insurance company thought she was you. They approved a pre-op consultation under your name last month." I felt nausea rise so fast I had to push the call button for the nurse. She came in, saw the panic on my face, and immediately checked my vitals. My heart rate was spiking. I clutched the phone so tightly my fingers hurt. My parents didn't just cut off my coverage. They stole it, hijacked it, gave my identity to my sister to fund a surgery the rest of us didn't even want for her. Emily sent a screenshot, an appointment confirmation email addressed to me but using Madison's contact info. My name, her face, my records. Her procedure, my head spun, and the nurse told me to breathe slow. I couldn't. How do you breathe when your entire life has been ripped out from under you? Then Emily told me how she found out. Apparently, she had messaged the GoFundMe asking why the campaign changed from a medical emergency to cosmetic work. Madison replied first, blocking her immediately after. But before she blocked her, Madison accidentally sent a voice note meant for someone else. Emily forwarded it to me. I put the phone to my ear with shaking hands. Madison's voice came through crystal clear. "Dad said if she dies, honestly, it solves the problem. Either way, the money's ours. Just make sure Mom deletes the old photos before more people get suspicious." The nurse saw the color drain from my face and asked if I wanted her to call someone. I almost laughed. "Call who? The people plotting their lives around whether I survived?" Emily kept typing, almost as if she knew I needed her to keep going before I collapsed again. "They told donors you were stable. Then they redirected everything. And the worst part, you were replaced on the insurance the same day your dad filed your employment change. He claimed you moved out and refused to provide documents when they asked for proof." I remembered that day. It was when they told me I was too emotional to live at home anymore. They pushed me out and then rewired my identity behind my back. And then Emily dropped the final blow of the twist. "They didn't just replace you for insurance. They tried to open a credit card with your identity to pay for the extra surgery costs. It got flagged. That's how I found the records. That's how I found you." I sat there trembling, IV line pulling at my arm, tears blurring my vision. My own family tried to let me die because keeping me alive was too expensive, but stealing my identity was useful. I whispered out loud to no one, "They wanted me gone." Emily texted again, "This wasn't incompetence. This was planned, thought out, coordinated, and you're not safe with them." For the first time, the truth settled into my bones. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't neglect. This was betrayal with intent. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard Madison's voice from that saved audio clip. "If she dies, honestly, it solves the problem." I lay in that hospital bed staring at the ceiling tiles, realizing my family had crossed so far over the line that revenge wasn't some dramatic fantasy. It was survival. They'd already taken my insurance, my identity, my medical treatment, my safety. If they were willing to risk me dying, what else were they willing to do if I confronted them unprepared? I needed a plan. A smart one. A realistic one. One that used their own arrogance and stupidity against them. Around 4 a.m., I messaged Emily, "I want to expose them, but I can't do it alone." She responded instantly like she'd been awake too, waiting. I figured, good, I have everything documented, but you need to protect yourself first. Protect myself. That part hadn't fully hit me until then. Emily explained what she'd learned digging through public records, screenshots, GoFundMe revision logs, and everything she'd gathered after getting blocked. She'd been doing real research, like an accidental detective who stumbled straight into the ugliest family secret imaginable. Step 1, she said, was securing my identity before my family used it again. So the next morning, with the nurse helping me sit upright, I called the insurance fraud hotline, the credit bureau, and the police non-emergency line. I didn't tell them everything yet, just enough to freeze my records and flag any future attempts under my name. The woman on the phone said, "This is serious. Someone's been using your identity with a lot of confidence." Yeah, my father. Confidence was his favorite personality trait. Emily kept guiding me through each step. Freeze your credit. Request copies of all insurance activity under your name. Document every hospitalization bill tied to the canceled policy. Save screenshots, especially timestamps. Never, ever tell your family you know. Not yet, she was right. If they realized I had proof, they'd bury everything. They'd lie. They'd spin it. They'd get ahead of me publicly like they always did. My family was good at performance. They'd built their whole online brand around being supportive, wholesome, girl dad goals. And they believed their own mythology so deeply that they thought people would take their side no matter what. But I had the truth, and for once, I had someone who believed me. Around noon that day, Emily sent a message that made my heart pound. "I contacted a reporter I know, a small local outlet. She's seen everything. She says she'll talk to you if you're ready." A reporter. That was big. Bigger than anything I planned on. My hands trembled, not from fear, maybe from adrenaline. For the first time, I wasn't just a sick girl begging her parents to listen. I had leverage, real leverage. But there was one more piece I needed before I could burn everything down. I needed access to the GoFundMe logs, the ones only the creator could see. Donation lists, withdrawal histories, IP addresses, scheduling changes. If I had that, it wouldn't just be a scandal, it would be evidence. Emily thought for a second and said, "There's a way, but you won't like it." I waited. "We need to get into their devices or their accounts." I swallowed hard. Madison used the same password for everything. I knew that. My parents were careless with tech security too. I'd grown up watching them save passwords in notes, reuse the same logins, never log out. This wasn't just possible. It was doable. I stared out the hospital window, Phoenix heat rippling off the pavement, and whispered to myself, "They wanted me gone. They're getting the opposite." Because if everything Emily suspected was true, then there was an even darker motive behind their choices. I just didn't know it yet. Emily and I talked through every detail, every possible route into my family's accounts, every risk. But even while we planned, something kept nagging at her. She finally said, "There's one thing I still don't understand. Your family was acting like they were running out of time, like they were desperate." I didn't know what she meant until she sent another screenshot she'd been sitting on, something she hadn't understood at first. It was a deleted GoFundMe update that she'd pulled from a cached page before it vanished. The update read, "Thank you to everyone who donated. We're trying to move fast because of an unexpected deadline with her care plan. Please keep sharing." Emily wrote, "That timeline doesn't match cosmetic surgery. There's no deadline, so I dug deeper." I waited, blood thumping in my ears. A minute later, she sent another message. "I found something you need to see. It's about your dad's business." My dad owned a marketing consultancy that had always been weirdly unstable. He bragged constantly about big clients, but the bills were always late, and he was constantly borrowing money from relatives. I chalked it up to him being irresponsible, but Emily wasn't talking about debt. She dropped a link to a public court filing. I opened it and felt the air leave my lungs. My father's company was named in an IRS investigation, not for tax evasion, but for falsified employee coverage reports. He'd been submitting fake dependents to inflate benefits. Fake dependents that, according to the filing, were tied to federal health insurance audits. The filing listed an unnamed dependent removed during the investigation. Emily said, "As soon as you turned 26, you were no longer a dependent, legally. Your dad knew that, but he kept reporting you as one to get tax credits and coverage stipends. When the IRS flagged it, he panicked." I pressed my palm over my mouth. Emily continued, "So he replaced you with someone who could pass as you on paper, someone he controlled, someone who lived under his roof." My sister. My identity wasn't just convenient, it was necessary. He needed a dependent to keep the benefits flowing for his company. And when I moved out, I ruined everything for him financially. My fainting spells, my bills, my health issues, to him, I wasn't a daughter. I was a liability that threatened his comfort. But it got worse. Much worse. Emily hesitated before sending the next message. "There's another reason they left you uninsured. Your dad told the insurance company you rejected treatment voluntarily." My chest tightened. "He claimed you refused care due to emotional instability. He even filed a statement saying the family had safety concerns about you." I blinked hard. That wasn't incompetence. That wasn't prioritizing Madison. That was setting up a paper trail to discredit me in advance, in case anything blew up. Emily kept going. "The insurance agent said your father implied you were unpredictable, that you made up health issues for attention. He laid the groundwork to claim anything you said was unreliable." It hit me like a physical blow. My whole life, my parents told me I was dramatic, too sensitive, unstable. They didn't just say it to my face. They said it in legal systems, insurance systems, government documents. And then Emily sent one last message, 5 words that changed everything. "Your dad wasn't scared of losing money. He was scared of being exposed." The identity theft, the insurance fraud, the false filings, the GoFundMe flip. They weren't trying to save Madison. They were trying to save themselves, and letting me die would have solved every problem they created. I felt something shift inside me then, not fear, not sadness, but pure cold clarity. This wasn't just about betrayal. This was about purpose. When Emily finally showed me the last piece, my father's motive in his own words, it felt like someone poured ice water straight into my chest. It was worse than fraud, worse than identity theft, worse than letting his own daughter suffer without care. It was intentional, calculated, cold. She sent another court document she'd found buried inside the filings. Something I had completely missed before, because it didn't list my name directly. It listed only initials. But the age matched mine. The dependent status matched mine. The date matched the month I moved out. Attached to it was a statement my father had given under oath. I opened it and read his exact words. "My older daughter has struggled with emotional volatility for years. She often exaggerates or fabricates medical concerns. She has refused stable employment, refuses to contribute to family obligations, and has made threats to cut off her relationship with us. She is no longer part of our household. We are prioritizing the child who benefits the family as a whole." I stopped breathing for a second. Emily texted, "He used your medical episodes as evidence of instability. He twisted everything. He made it sound like dropping you wasn't neglect, just responsible parenting." But that wasn't the horrifying part. The horrifying part was what came next. On the next page, my father wrote, "If she seeks coverage or medical expenses later, we believe it will be due to her own lifestyle choices. It is not financially responsible for us to support her. We have chosen to invest our resources into the child who has a real future and represents the family positively. Not the child who needs help, the child who represents the family positively." He made it sound like I was a burden by default, like my existence was a threat to their public image, like I wasn't worth the money to keep alive. Then the final paragraph, the one that burned itself into my memory. "We have encouraged our older daughter to live independently. Whether she succeeds or fails is ultimately her responsibility. As parents, we must allocate our limited resources wisely. One child will give back to us. The other will not. One child will give back to us. The other will not." That was it. That was the reason, not love, not fear, not desperation, investment, return. Image, cost-benefit analysis. He didn't see me as his child. He saw me as a failing asset he wanted to cut loose. Emily sent one more message, almost reluctantly. There's audio too. From that voice note Madison sent me by accident. It's not just her talking. I hit play. My father's voice came through, casual and calm in the background. We raised 2 daughters. Only one is worth the investment. If the other one wants to self-destruct, let her. We can't drain our finances because she refuses to get it together. Madison's voice chimed in, laughing lightly. Exactly. She's been dragging us down for years. Then my mother, don't guilt yourself. She's always been dramatic. If she ends up in trouble, people will assume she did it to herself. They weren't just cruel, they were strategic. They crafted a narrative where I was unreliable, where my illness was fake, where anything that happened to me was my own fault, where they were innocent. Emily typed, almost like she hated sending it. They didn't think you'd survive long enough to fight back. That's why they acted so boldly. My father hadn't panicked. He hadn't made sloppy mistakes. He had built a justification for abandoning me. And he believed it so deeply, he said it under oath. He didn't just betray me. He made it so if I died, it would look reasonable. I sat in that hospital bed, numb and shaking, as the truth settled into my bones. They didn't just want freedom from responsibility. They wanted freedom from me. And if I wanted justice, I'd have to take everything from them that they took from me, very publicly, very loudly, and very carefully. The day I was discharged from the hospital, I sat in the back of an Uber with a folder full of documents on my lap. Fraud reports, screenshots, audio files, insurance statements, identity theft alerts. I held onto that folder like it was a life jacket. My hands were still weak, but my mind had never been clearer. For the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to make my family understand me. I wasn't trying to win them over or avoid conflict or keep the peace. I was going to destroy everything they'd built on my back. Emily met me at a coffee shop near downtown Phoenix. She hugged me like we'd known each other for years. She had already arranged everything. The reporter was waiting in a private booth. A legal advocate she knew had offered to help pro bono. And Emily had pulled every last digital thread from the GoFundMe logs, timestamps, revision histories, donation redirections, IP addresses tied to Cabo. She slid a laptop toward me and said, "Tell your story, in your words." All of it, so I did, for 2 hours. The reporter just listened, eyes wide, recording everything. When I played the audio of my family talking about me like I was disposable, she covered her mouth and whispered, "Jesus Christ." Within 48 hours, the investigation was underway. Within 72, everything detonated. The article hit first. A long, detailed piece. Local family accused of using daughter's medical emergency for fraudulent fundraiser and identity theft. Social media grabbed it like fresh meat. Screenshots spread everywhere. My family's brand deals suspended them within hours. Their sponsors posted statements distancing themselves. Former friends of theirs started dropping comments about similar behavior and controlling tendencies. Then the GoFundMe team reached out. They had seen the article. They froze the account, launched an internal audit, and confirmed what we already knew. My family withdrew over $27,000 in medical emergency funds days before switching the page to cosmetic surgery. Every dollar was traced, every withdrawal, every change log. And then they did something I didn't expect. They refunded every donor and flagged the account for permanent removal. They also passed the findings directly to law enforcement. But the biggest blow came from the insurance company. They contacted me with an official letter. "We have confirmed identity falsification and unauthorized removal from dependent coverage. We are cooperating with federal investigators." The IRS updated me next. They reopened my father's audit. Not the small one, the big one, the one that ruins people. My parents and sister were still in Cabo when everything broke. Their phones must have exploded with notifications, because Madison tried to call me 15 times in a row. My mom texted a frantic paragraph about misunderstandings and talking this out as a family. My father sent one message, "We need to fix this. Delete whatever you told them." I didn't respond. Instead, I sent every message they'd ever written about me pretending to be unstable straight to the investigators assigned to the case. The silence afterward was beautiful. The last step of my revenge wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was a simple, quiet completeness. I blocked all three of them on everything, changed my number, filed a restraining order after an investigator recommended it, and then I walked out of that chapter of my life without looking back. The truth did exactly what I needed it to do. It sank them. Their business collapsed within a month. Their online presence evaporated. Sponsors left. Clients left. Even extended family stopped defending them after the audio recordings surfaced. Meanwhile, with legal help, I got full restoration of my insurance, a settlement from the company, and identity theft protection for the next decade. But the real closure came one night when I was finally feeling strong enough to take a walk alone. I sat on a bench outside my apartment complex, breathing in the cool desert air, and realized something. They didn't expect me to survive. Not the illness, not the betrayal, not the abandonment. But I did. I'm alive. They're exposed. And in the end, the daughter they thought was too expensive to save is doing just fine. Because I finally learned the truth. I was never the liability. I was the evidence.